The fiend's tall tail shot out at Volkar, who raised his shield to deflect the blow. The force of the tail striking the shield broke the wrist of the paladin. The shield fell from Volkar's arm, leaving him exposed to the fiend, who lifted his mace to strike. Leo grabbed Lurk's spear and threw it at the fiend. The spear hit the fiend in the ribs beneath his shoulder, a lucky shot to miss the fiend's armor and gave Volkar time to get away from the fiend. The fiend howled and pulled out of the spear and then threw the spear back at Leo. Leo dodged the spear and it struck the stone wall and shattered with a loud crack. Daryl and Darko worked their way along the outside corridor, moving behind the columns until they were behind the fiend. As much as Daryl wanted to attack the fiend, he could not find an opening. The creature was simply too big, but Daryl spotted a ring of ironwork hanging from the ceiling for torches. This gave him an idea. He spoke softly to Darkyo, and they quickly devised a plan. While the fiend was continuing towards the entrance after Leo, Daryl sheathed his sword and then sprinted across the chamber and grabbed the beast's chain that the fiend had left behind. Darko cried out to the fiend to distract him while Daryl swung the chain up into the ironworks where it caught in the wedge of the sconce. Daryl grabbed the collar pin and quickly climbed up the chain. He was able to pull himself on the iron ring. Then he pulled the chain up to him. He opened the collar and fed the chain through the collar, forming a loop. He put the pin to the collar and tried to hide in the darkness. When Darkyo saw that Daryl was ready, he ran at the fiend and called out. The fiend spun to meet Darkyo, but the paladin stopped just short, then waved his sword in an arc of golden flame. Challenging the fiend, who began to move at Darkyo, he took a step back, then another, allowing the fiend to draw closer to him.
Closer to him.
Darkyo watched the whip tail. He was too close now, but he needed the fiend to follow him just a little further now. The fiend's tail began the twitch. Darkyo jumped back as the tail snapped at him. The fiend thought he had the paladin and took another step closer as the tail recoiled. But before he could strike, a loop of chain fell over his head and formed a noose. The fiend grabbed the chain in his claw. As he did so, Daryl brought the blue fire to his sword, and he leapt from the ironworks, swinging his magical blade into the horned helmet of the fiend. But even his sword did not penetrate the fiend deep enough for a fatal blow. However, the fiend was stunned by the blow and dropped his mace and grabbed the chain with both of his clawed arms to free himself. Quickly, Darkyo and Leo closed on the fiend, striking at his legs and tail. Leo easily severed the fiend's whipped tail that continued to writhe at the feet of the paladin. Darkyo struck at massive leg of the fiend. His blade made a large gash that spurted blood, but Darkyo did not see the clawed arms swing at him, and he was struck across his chest, knocking him away and losing his sword. The fiend was about to strike Darkyo when Daryl swung his blade into the fiend's wounded leg. This time, Daryl heard the bone crack and the fiend lost his balance and began to fall. The loop tightened around the fiend's neck and he twisted, jerking the ironwork from the ceiling. The metal ring crashed down on the fiend and he fell to the floor. The fiend's massive neck was exposed, and in a bright red flash, Leo struck the neck of the fiend. Daryl struck the fiend's clawed arm, and it was severed from the fiend. The fiend made a gurgling sound, and its head fell to the stone floor. Then it was over.
Let's stop here.
Okay.